Welcome to the Dragons.
So, we are tearing down the stream room here and getting it ready for this to be the safe room. We are still ready that we can go if we need to, but yeah, so we're making this the safe room and blocking off the windows over here, and basically we have a bathroom right next to this that has no windows and everything. So we're taking all these shelves down because we're going to pile them up against the other windows that are most vulnerable. Anyway, going back to doing this.
Welcome to the Dragons. 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 Sir Rock. Producer Rock. Welcome to the Dragons. Welcome.
So if you're
to the
just joining
Dragons.
us, we're preparing for the hurricane, which now says it's going to be Category 4 here. So we're just we're making our safe room. Still have a little bit of time to decide what we're doing. And this is going to be our safe room. We're going to block off the windows over here. We're taking all the stuff down off the shelves. We're going to use my bookcases to block the other windows in the house and everything. So, yeah.
Welcome to the Dragons. Welcome to the Dragons. Dragons. Welcome to the Dragons. Welcome to the Dragons.
Spills into the bay and eventually spills out to the Gulf of Mexico. This is under a mandatory evacuation, and I want to show you the front page here of the Tampa Bay Times. Stay safe. That is really what you need to do. If you live in Zone A, and they may expand these evacuations as we go closer, especially with the new track and the latest update as Irma gets closer to the Sunshine State, you need to heed those orders. You want to run away from the water. Storm surge is no laughing matter, and again, it's the #1 killer here, water-related deaths. You can hide from the winds, but it's the storm surge that's going to pose the biggest threat, including here in Tampa, right where we are. And I want to bring in Carl Parker. And again, you just showed us the update about 25 minutes ago of the new totals, especially along the West Coast. What is that update here, Carl?
Well, the update is 5 to 8 feet of storm surge, and that's going to be across the Tampa metro area. Then we're looking at 6 to 10 as you get farther down the coast into Sarasota and Bradenton and right down into Evergreen, and then even more than that. I'll show you the forecast right now. This is the new forecast from the National Hurricane Center, and so all of these values have been raised because of this track, which now drives right up and along the West Coast. We're going to get that surge initially as it's coming in, but then also on the back side, and in fact that's going to be the most important element here for some areas as the center of circulation is moving off to the north of that. And so 5 to 8 feet, that's a really big deal in Tampa. If you've spent any time at the beaches there, Tampa and on southward, you know that you can walk out in the water for quite some distance because it's got a very shallow continental shelf that goes off for quite a ways here, and that allows the water to pile up even more so than it would if the seafloor were to drop off very quickly. So we've got 6 to 10 feet of potential surge. Sarasota, Bradenton into Siesta Key, farther down the coast, getting down into Englewood here. And then also we're looking at a significant, tremendous surge in Fort Myers and Naples, Marco Island, and then getting down towards Everglades City as well, looking at 10 to 15 feet of surge there. You just do not want to be anywhere near the ocean in that case. And we're not talking about just right on the coast. We're also talking about being away from the coast as well. Let's take a look right now at what's going on with the storm and the wind that's starting to come in already. And so we've got some wind that's already getting up to tropical storm force, and that is now sustained in the Keys. In some cases there, we're certainly gusting up to tropical storm force. And as these bands continue to drive through like that, you'll see winds gusting up to 60 miles per hour and higher. The wind is necessarily going to be stronger aloft, and so where you get heavier rain and stronger thunderstorms, it's going to bring that momentum down to the ground, which is exactly what we have seen here. Even though the center of the circulation is a pretty long way off, it's now right along the coast of Cuba, so it's more than 100 miles away from the Keys, but already we're starting to get those tropical storm force winds sustained at some times and certainly in gusts. So right now a Category 3 storm with winds of 125 miles per hour. It's moving towards the west now, although I think we're seeing a little more of a west-northwest component, and we expect that turn to continue. And because the storm is going to be solidly back out over the open water, it is expected that it will strengthen. The official forecast calling for a solid Category 4 storm to start affecting the Keys late tonight and overnight tonight, and then moving up into southwest Florida tomorrow morning. But it could be even stronger than that, and it's just going to rake the west coast of Florida. But keep in mind that this is well outside. All right, keep in mind that we're going to see impacts well outside of that cone. Let's go to the Florida governor right now.
Hurricane Irma is now impacting our state. South Florida is already experiencing tropical storm force winds, and nearly 25,000 people have already lost power. Hurricane Irma is battering the South Florida and the Florida Keys with dangerous winds and continues to remain a catastrophic and life-threatening major Category 3 storm with winds of 125 miles per hour. This is a deadly major storm, and our state has never seen anything like it. Millions of Floridians will see major hurricane impacts with deadly, deadly, deadly storm surge and life-threatening winds. There is a serious threat of significant storm surge flooding. There is a serious threat of significant storm surge flooding along the entire west coast of Florida, and this is increased to 15 feet of impact above ground level. 15 feet of impact above ground level. Think about that. 15 feet is devastating and will cover your house. In the Tampa Bay area, the surge is forecasted to be 5 to 8 feet. Think about that. The typical first story is 7 to 10 feet, 5 to 8 feet. This is a life-threatening situation. Remember, the storm surge comes after the wind. Do not think the storm is over when the wind slows down. Local officials will let you know when it's safe. The storm surge will rush in, and it could kill you. Here in Orange County, you're under a hurricane warning, and we'll see dangerous and life-threatening wind and torrential rainfall of more than a foot. The rainfall has already started in this area, and the wind will begin tonight. We could also see tornadoes. Please take action to keep your family safe and shelter in place or find shelter now. There is a mandatory evacuation order for mobile homes in Orange County. If you have been ordered to evacuate anywhere in the state, you need to leave right now. Not tonight, not in an hour, now. You are running out of time to make a decision. Evacuations are in place across the state. More than 6.3 million Floridians have been ordered to evacuate. You need to listen to local evacuation orders. I'm a dad and I'm a grandfather. I love my family more than anything, and I cannot imagine life without them. Do not put your life or your family's life at risk. Right now is the right time to do the right thing for your family. School buses are aiding in evacuations. Please take advantage of this service. If you need to leave and are unable to do so for any reason at all, call 1-800-342-3557. I'm sorry, 1-800-342-3557, and we will do everything possible to get you out. Protecting life is our absolute top priority. There will be no resource, there will be no expense that will be spared to protect lives. I urge everyone to check on your neighbors, families, and friends. If you know someone who is not evacuating and should, please contact them and make sure they have a plan to get to safety. But you can't wait to get out. You can't wait until the storm's here. You've got to do it now. Possessions can be replaced. Your house can be replaced. You and your family cannot be replaced. Shelters. We have been working with counties across the state to ensure there are enough shelters. Currently, there are more than 320 shelters open across every county in the path of the storm, and more are opening today. More than 54,000 Floridians have already taken shelter, and there's still room for more. If you have a building and emergency officials ask you to open a shelter, please comply. You will save somebody's life. This is so important to families seeking safety. Everyone in Florida needs to find a safe place to go. Traffic. Evacuation routes are moving, and we have stopped the shoulder driving on I-75 from Wildwood to the Georgia line because traffic is moving. If there's a need to reopen this, FDOT and Highway Safety will do so immediately.
Welcome to the Dragons.
Evacuations are not meant to be convenient. They are meant to keep you safe. Check real-time traffic information and evacuation routes at fl511.com. Fuel. We are still aggressively working to keep gas stations open and filled. But this won't last much longer in South Florida because it will be unsafe to be on the roads. While all the fuel ports in Florida are now closed for safety as Irma impacts our state, following the storm, state troopers will resume escorting fuel supply trucks directly to gas stations across the state. I waived Florida motor fuel import tax for 5 days to help bring more fuel to our state for storm response and recovery. This will make our efforts to bring more fuel into our state help us bring more fuel from other states, neighboring states after the storm. We know fuel is important. We're doing everything we can to get more fuel in the state. Florida's prepared. Every single Florida Guardsman that can be deployed has already been deployed to prepare and respond to this storm across the state. We have so many members of our law enforcement that are putting their lives at risk to help Floridians get to a safe place, and they will not stop until it is no longer safe. We cannot thank our guardsmen, we can't thank our law enforcement, we can't thank any of our first responders enough because they're putting themselves at risk to take care of everybody else. Utility providers, they're actively pre-positioning resources throughout the state and in neighboring states. We all know the importance of getting power back on. We will work aggressively with our utilities to make sure it gets back on as quickly as we can. I want to be clear. We are under a state of emergency. Employees who perform vital services, including healthcare staff, we need you to be there to help your community. Right now, Florida needs 1,000 volunteer nurses to help at our special needs shelters. If you are a nurse, please, and you can volunteer, please email at HELP, helpfl at flhealth.gov. So helpfl at flhealth.gov. You can still email to the prior email address we were using, bprchd preparedness at flhealth.gov. Again, we need nurses. We need nurses for our special needs shelters. We've already received thousands of replies. This is great news, but we're still actively to try to get these individuals to our shelters. We're also going to continue to need volunteers before and after the storm. So many people across the country and across the world have called to offer their prayers and support. I want to thank the governors of the other states that provided every resource we've asked for. I know the entire country is behind us. I've been talking to the White House pretty much every day. I've been talking to FEMA all the time. I talked to Brock Long this morning, FEMA administrator. I've talked to almost every cabinet member, and they're doing everything they can to provide whatever resource they can. We have our country's best first responders ready to help us, and Florida will get through this. If you're in an evacuation zone, you've got to go. You've got to get out now. Get to a safe place. This is a catastrophic storm their state has never seen. Let's remember, we can rebuild your house, you can get your possessions again. We can't rebuild your life, and we can't rebuild your family. Florida is tough, Florida is resilient, Florida is unbreakable. Let's stay together and help each other. You can follow my Twitter account at FLGovScott for life safety messaging and updates in English and Spanish. Florida is an amazing melting pot of loving people, and I'm so proud to be governor of this incredible state. Huracán Irma ya está impactando nuestro estado. Este huracán es muy peligroso. Acuérdense que la vida de usted y su familia es lo más importante. Por favor, tengan cuidado.
All right, that is Florida Governor Rick Scott talking about an urgent need for volunteers as this storm is going to be affecting the entire state of Florida, minus perhaps some areas of the far western panhandle. And the warnings certainly reflect that. This is the new hurricane warning out from the National Hurricane Center, which covers the entire peninsula of Florida. So this is where hurricane force winds are expected. They're moving in as early as this evening across parts of far South Florida, including the Keys, and then will overspread South Florida into early tomorrow morning. Then to the north of that, you see there are hurricane watches up into South Georgia, coastal areas of South Carolina, and reaching a little farther west as well. Tropical storm watches to the north of that. Here is the forecast track and intensities. Looking for a Category 4 storm to come up and across the state of Florida. This could be devastating from Naples up into Sarasota, Bradenton, and Tampa. And then beyond that, a significant storm moving through a lot of Georgia. Widespread power outages are likely in these areas. And this is a large circulation with an enormous area of tropical storm force winds 200 miles out from the center of that circulation. Let's get out to Chris Bruin right now. He is in Tampa, Florida. And Chris, this is going to be a really big deal there in Tampa. And there's a lot of concern about the level of storm surge that we're now expecting with this sort of late shift in the model guidance with the westward motion of the storm that continued a little longer than had been previously thought. And so now we're looking at a situation where you could be talking about life-threatening storm surge in these coastal areas of Tampa, and folks that are on the beach are going to be in a real jam if they stay there.
Yeah, absolutely, Carl. And again, with the latest update, it's still not too late to get out of here. We're still, weather's fine for now, but that will change very quickly as we head into the overnight hours tonight and then throughout the day tomorrow. So you want to get out and about. We want to bring in Pinellas County, which is the county next to us. This includes St. Pete and Clearwater. We want to bring in the Pinellas County Administrator, Mark Woodard. And Mark, thanks for joining us. I want to ask you, what is your county doing? I know Zone A and Zone B under mandatory evacuations there in St. Petersburg. What do you want to urge residents as they now may or may not be on the cusp of leaving?
Well, you're correct. We've declared a mandatory evacuation for both A and B levels, as well as all mobile home residents throughout all of the county. We are encouraging our residents to heed the warnings. This is a strong, dangerous storm. It is forecast to have a dramatic impact on our area. We, the county, our 24 municipalities here in Pinellas County and our various other governmental partners have been prepared and have been preparing for this storm now for the better part of a week. And now it's the turn of the public to assume that responsibility and take personal responsibility for their safety and for their possessions.
And Mark, again, Pinellas County, unlike Hillsborough County, we only have to really worry about Tampa Bay and the Hillsborough River. You not only have Tampa Bay, you're surrounded by water on three sides. Keep in mind the Gulf of Mexico is on your west side, and there's only so many routes out of St. Pete and Clearwater. Of course, you have the Sunshine Skyway and the other bridges. What is the latest? When will those bridges close for people to get out? So again, what's the latest as far as the closures go? Obviously, all the roads are open, but what will it take for those bridges to get closed?
Chris, I don't have that information available. We've been working with the Sheriff Galtieri, the Pinellas County Sheriff, on those matters. But you're absolutely right. Florida is a peninsula, and Pinellas County is a peninsula on that peninsula. We are subject to storm surge impacts from the Gulf and certainly Tampa Bay. We have a current forecast of a storm surge of 3 to 5 feet, but with the expectation that that estimate could double with even a slight shift in the track of Irma to the west. For us, the worst impact from the storm surge will be on the back end of the storm. So we're estimating, based upon the current forecast track, that impact will affect us from about 2 to 10 p.m. on Monday. With respect to...
Mark, is there any question for you? Is there any chance that any more zones will be added to this mandatory evacuation, especially with the track now trending more towards the Tampa Bay area?
You know, that is certainly not anticipated in the current forecast, Chris. So I would say for now the answer to that is no. We believe that an evacuation level B here in Pinellas County will keep our residents safe. We have opened an enhanced number of shelters. So we do have 16 shelters open at this point in time. That will accommodate the individuals that we project would come out of those Zone A and B areas, special needs. But we've also added a little bit of capacity for those individuals who might not feel safe in their homes, given that we're forecast to experience hurricane force winds for about 9 hours and tropical force winds for about 24 hours.
All right, I really appreciate your time. Mark Woodard, that is the Pinellas County Administrator. Appreciate it. Stay safe. And again, we'll keep you updated with the latest. Now, here in Tampa, this is the biggest threat, the storm surge. We're in a Zone A evacuation here where we are. Everything you see along the water is under Zone A mandatory evacuation. So again, it's the storm surge. Prediction now 5 to 8 feet, and that could potentially even get higher. And keep in mind, Tampa Bay's just to my left. We'll pan over. Not a lot of boats out, a lot of people getting their boats out. And another interesting thing, I was talking to some locals yesterday when I was flying in here. They said they noticed a lot of the birds have already left. Now we see a couple, but typically you would have a ton of seagulls and a lot of birds, and it just is kind of odd how there aren't that many birds out and about. So not only are the humans taking this seriously, but the birds are fleeing out ahead, and animals definitely can sense those pressure changes well in advance of humans as well. And again, not only multi-million-dollar yachts to my left, but we've got high-rises here in downtown Tampa. This is the Tampa Bay Convention Center. And again, it's pretty much, it's a Saturday. You would have a lot of people here, but a lot of people have definitely evacuated or are on the verge. And keep in mind, you still have time to get out, but it's where you go. You don't have to go far. You don't have to go super far to get out of town. But if you do, keep in mind you're risking the chance of a lot of traffic. You only have to go to where you feel safe. Run from the water and then find a sturdy structure to ride out the winds. But we want to go inland now. So we're near the coast here in Tampa Bay. We want to go to Orlando, where there are a lot of people riding out the storm. Of course, they're away from the water. But Justin, it's going to be pretty destructive in Orlando as well, especially with the winds and trees. Let's talk about trees that could potentially fall over, and especially on mobile homes and weak structures, that could pose a big hazard going forward.
Yeah, Chris, preparation is absolutely key. Heeding evacuation orders is absolutely key. You heard the governor talking about that just a few moments ago, about how important it is if you have an evacuation order, you need to leave. Because if you don't leave, you're putting first responders' lives at risk to get to you in the event that you need to be rescued. So preparation is absolutely key, and that's especially true if you're living in a mobile home, because of how dangerous those can be in the winds we're talking about. Here in Orlando, rather, we're talking about hurricane storm force winds when this thing ramps up, gusts upwards of 100 miles an hour, and the potential for 8 inches of rain. Because of that, Lake Eola has been lowered by 12 inches by the city of Orlando. Let's go over here and talk to Walter. Walter just moved back to Orlando 3 weeks ago.
Right, exactly.
Walter, are you happy you came?
I am. You know, my son and my granddaughter live here, so I'm happy to be with them and to be able to help them out and help them weather the storm.
Well, Walter, what are you doing? You used to live here, so you've experienced tropical weather before. You moved away for a few years, but you're back. What are you doing to prepare?
Well, just getting food and water and batten down the hatches a bit. You know, all of the lawn chairs and that sort of thing, we're bringing them inside, putting them in the garage, putting up some paneling along the windows and that sort of thing. So that's about the most that you can you can do right now, you know. So so we're just trying to prepare. You know, God loves preparation, so we're just trying to prepare for the storm.
Walter, you be safe. And thank you for your time. Best to your family. Make sure they're safe too. Thank you so much for stopping by and talking with us. And Walter touched on something very important. Things like chairs, lawn chairs, things in your yard, potted plants. I can tell you Florida Department of Transportation moved all the cones and other things off of construction zones on the highway, like those barrels. They're all gone. Make sure you're putting all that stuff in a safe place so it can't go around and hit somebody like a first responder if they're out. The Weather Channel comes back live after this with more Irma coverage.